everybody, my name is Tracy. I am a senior in the UConn Puppet Arts program, and I work at the Ballard Institute. And here today, I'm going to be giving you a little workshop about the basics of how to do stop motion at home. So the only two things that you're going to actually need to be able to make this work are some sort of phone or tablet or laptop or just something with a camera that you can set up to take pictures of things. And then the other thing you're going to need besides that is any sort of object or puppet or just something that you can move and take pictures of. So if you have like little stuffed animals or like dolls or tiny doll props, or one of my personal favorites, if you have Legos, those are going to work really well. Any of those things, as long as you can take pictures of it and move it, you're going to be able to make awesome stop motion content. Now, one of the first things that I like to do is when you have, I'm personally working with a tablet, but when you have just something that you're propping up to do stop motion, you're going to usually want some sort of an angle with the camera facing like forward like this at what you're shooting, or like down from above like this. And when you're doing that, you're going to need something to prop it up. So I have here a couple of little cardboard kind of like kickstands that I made. This one's out of a thinner like cereal box cardboard, and this one's out of like a stiffer like shipping box cardboard. So first I think we'll just sort of walk you through how to make those so you have something that you can just kind of stand your phone or tablet up on. So the first one I'm going to walk you through is this kind of thicker cardboard one, and for that you're just going to need some sort of cardboard, scissors, and tape. So what you're going to want to do is the very first thing, you're going to make a, I don't know how well you can see this, but I'll show it after. You're going to want to take this very bottom here and just kind of like curl it up so that there's a little slot that's just about big enough to fit your device. Device is a good word. Let's say just device overall for any phone or tablet that you're working with. So you're gonna rotate everything up like this. And then you'll see right there, there's this like cute little slot, and that you could kind of fit a phone or a tablet in that. If you're a little more advanced, you could, if you really wanted to, take a box cutter and kind of like score some lines in there to help you roll it up. But if you roll it up with your hands, that's gonna work perfectly fine too. We've got a lot of options. You can do whatever you want. This is your movie, you're in charge. So after you get that, you're gonna wanna kind of roughly take whatever device you're using, and knowing that like our camera's in the top right corner here, you're gonna want something that has enough support but also shows the camera. So if our camera's like here on the other side, we're gonna wanna cut the cardboard about like right there where my thumb is. So you're gonna like take these scissors and just cut a straight line along the end of your cardboard. And again, doesn't have to be perfectly straight, just has to hold it up. And then this extra cardboard, you're gonna take and cut a bunch of little slots out of. I usually like to try and cut 4, but you can cut more, you can cut less, but 4 is a good base number to work with, since you're going to take 2 of them and tape them up like this so that it sort of makes a little like tripod. There's something like flat, there's 2 angles that it can stand on. So how I like to tape them is you take your piece of tape, pop it right there so that it's just part of it's on the, about half of it's on the cardboard and the other half of it's sticking up. And then you're gonna hold that up at sort of this like 45-degree-ish angle from the base that we already made so that it makes a little tent shape. And then you're just gonna fold that right over. It'll stick down, everything will stay nice and neat. And then you're gonna take your second piece of tape, repeat that same process, tape on half of it, attach it to the tripod. And then from there, you're gonna have something that you can sit on a table. It's gonna stand up. It'll hold a little iPod in it. But what I like to do to make these extra secure, you've got these two other little pieces of cardboard. You can tape them down flat, just like this, so that not only is it giving your back here a little extra support, but if you have like a heavier device or something thicker that's not gonna stay as well, you can put like a paperweight or like just a little rock or something a little heavier right there, and that's gonna really hold this whole tripod, your whole setup right in place. And when you're doing stop motion like this, keeping your camera still is gonna be one of the most important things, because the whole baseline of your stop motion is you're taking whatever object you're filming and you're moving it just the tiniest bit and then taking a picture. So like those really little tiny movements are what's gonna make your whole movie. And if there's something that makes those little tiny movements off, whole thing's gonna be thrown off. So if your camera is as like still and solid as possible, it's gonna make everything look a lot easier and a lot cleaner. Ooh, speaking of easier and cleaner, let's get a little bit more tape on this. Just make sure everything's nice and secure. No harm in using a little extra tape. Make sure everything's solid. Really slide that down in there. And this is the other thing I really like with stop motion. Since everything is filming on this camera, the only thing that you need is for whatever's on your camera to look pretty. This tripod, it does not have to look pretty. It does not have to be clean. It just has to get the job done. So you'll see if I just take like the camera app on here and kind of put that up in there. Oh, we might need to curl this other end up a bit more to get that to work. This will sort of sit in there on that curl, but it'll still get an angle. And then I can also take these back pieces and like maybe I sit it like this and that angle's too low. So I bring these up, so I push this device up a bit and I sit like a rock or something over here, and that'll really help me secure everything. Like a rock or a book or just anything with a little bit of weight can really help that out. And then this is the other type of little tripod you can make. I recommend these more if you have like a smaller device that isn't as heavy, like something little that won't really fall over. And that is you're just taking half of a cereal, or in this case, graham cracker box. This one, I don't know if you can see, it's actually the other half of the box. And you're gonna use this little pre-folded flap as the kind of flap that we used from here before. So you're gonna take that and then just also kind of roll it right up to fit your device. If you want it to be a little thicker, you can like fold it in half and then roll it. And I'd say since this is a bigger device I'm working with, that I'm gonna do that, but you've got options. So that'll sort of roll up like this, and we can fit our device right in there. And then from here, we're gonna do kind of the same process. That'll fit in here. We see where our camera is. But instead of cutting it on this one, I'm just gonna fold it down. It's gonna allow the cardboard to be a little bit thicker and sturdier if it's folded over. But then also gives us the same shape. And you can kind of see here that I folded this cardboard down, but then also took these extra corners and kind of folded them in on a little bit of an angle. And then that angle is gonna kind of create those same like flatter, extra little like chunk solid bits that we formed from before. And then these, you can do the same thing. You can put like a rock or a book or something right here to help keep it sturdy. You could even like tape those corners to your table if you wanted to. Lots of different options. So this one might not hold up quite, oh, that held up better than I thought it would. So really, any of these methods will work. It just all depends on what kind of cardboard you have lying around, how much you want to cut and tape things versus just fold. But I'd say, let's try working with this tripod for now. Oh, tripod, that's the other thing. If you happen to, at your home, have like an actual tripod or like a pop socket or like something that is made for holding a device up at an angle, definitely use that. You can use it with one of these cardboard ones, but this is just like if you don't have a real tripod, this is an alternative. But I highly recommend using an actual tripod if you have the access. Now, when you're filming this actual stop motion video, there's, in the description of this, I put 2 separate apps that you can work with. One is Stop Motion Studio and the other is, I think it's called Stickbot 2.0. They're both going to do basically the same thing for you. It's just that Stop Motion Studio is a free trial of an app that you can pay for, and the Stickbot one is 100% free, but they're both available on iOS and on Google Play, so you should be able to access them from any device that you're working with. I today will be showing things through Stop Motion Studio. That's what I was kind of looking at the beginning, but any app is fine, and you're going to find a lot more tutorials online and on different websites about how specifically to work little things in each individual app. They're also, like, the app itself will give you a really good tutorial. This is more just kind of showing the basics of stop motion with an app. So they're all going to have kind of the same thing. I don't know how much you can see from this angle. You're going to click this like new movie button, and then it's going to pop up, dismiss this little pop-up. It's going to give you like a show of whatever's on your camera, and then at the bottom it's going to show you all of the frames that you're taking. So each picture that you take for stop motion, since stop motion is just a bunch of little pictures all at once, each little picture is going to be a frame. And then the really important thing with stop motion is each second of your movie is a certain number of frames. Usually when people are starting out, they like to work with 12 frames. More advanced movies are either going to be 24 or 32. I think like if you go in theaters and you're watching a stop motion movie, it's usually 24 or 32 frames per second. And again, all that means is the number of pictures that you're taking in 1 second of film. So like if I went and I was working with our little frog friend here, and then I go like 1 picture, 2 picture, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then that frog would walk from here to here in 12 pictures, 12 frames, and that's going to be 1 second of your movie. And that's just a good thing to note to help you like keep track of like your planning and your timing and how long everything's going with your movie. Oh, is this? Our lighter sort of cardstock cereal box tripod isn't working out the greatest. Let's bring in our sturdier cardboard one and see if that helps out. Oh my gosh, hello to everybody in the comments. Great to see you, great to hear from you. Hope this workshop's going well so far. Please feel free to leave any questions at any time. I'm more than happy to go back and talk about something again, or jump forward and bring up something I didn't talk about yet. We're here together, learning about stop motion. More than welcome to any questions. So let's say you sort of have your camera up like this, and I don't know how well you guys can kind of see that, but you'll see that like, here's our little like stop motion set and our little character. So if we have like the very first picture we're taking is our little frog character looking straight at the camera. We'll take that one picture, that'll sort of load, and then it'll give us the next picture. And I don't know how well you can sort of see, but like this actual frog, like I can take with my hand here and kind of move back and forth. But you'll still see that there's this other picture of the frog here. And what this whole sort of setup is called like an onion skin. Like, so you know how when you like peel an onion, there's all those different little skins, all these really tiny layers. So that in stop motion is a thing that you use to kind of like keep track of where you are with the whole project. So if the first picture I took was the frog sitting right here, just like that, you can kind of see that my onion skin looks exactly the same. And that helps me know that this is where the frog was before. So if I move the frog a little bit over and then take another picture, then that'll load and it'll show me the frog is here, it was there, and it's just kind of moving a little bit. So I can move it a little bit to the left or I can move it a little bit to the right. And on my screen here, it'll show me where the frog is moving in relationship to the last one. Can you set up closed caption for your explanation of this? I am not 100% sure how we can get closed captions for a live feed, but if you have a specific question, I'm more than willing to repeat something live or go in the chat afterwards when this is done and type something up if that helps you out. But all of these terms are also things that you can Google if you have questions about a specific thing. Like onion skin is a really common term, and if you went online and looked up onion skin stop motion, there'll be tons of videos and texts and other things. Oh, hi Tracy, I just missed which app you're using at the moment. This particular app is Stop Motion Studio. Both apps will work about the same, and there's tons of different ones online, but this specific one that we're talking about is Stop Motion Studio, and there's a link to their website in the description if you want to look at it more. Thanks for checking in. So that's just sort of the basics of an onion skin. It's going to just give you the picture that you took before so you can kind of see where you're moving things. And the main reason that I like to keep track of an onion skin, the big thing that's really helpful is if I have like this frog that's moving all around, and then I have like a little tree that I want to keep in place, so let's say we add a tree in there, then I can move this frog around any which way, but also keep track of where this tree is in the same place. So like if I take this frog and move it over there, then the frog moves, but I can see that the tree's staying. And like if I'm moving the frog with my hand and accidentally knock that tree down, then I can sort of see, okay, so this tree was right there before, and I can line everything up really nice so that when the frog moves again, you'll see that the tree isn't moving. And that's just sort of important to like if you're setting up a landscape or like a house or there's any sort of background, just making sure that your puppet or your character is moving and that the background isn't. Because like there's some scenarios where I totally understand why you'd want to have your set move, but like if I have my little frog just like taking a walk in the park and then the trees in the park are moving and like rocks are all moving around, then that might not be exactly the kind of shot that I'm going for, and it might not make as much sense. So that's sort of the basics of like how you're moving something, what the frames per second are going to be. And here, let me go back to sort of a blank movie on this so that we can work with some other things. So there's a lot of different camera angles that you can take when you're doing sort of a movie like this. So what we were just talking about is sort of like this front shot where you've got like your frog in, and maybe you have a whole little set where it's like frog and bear and they're sitting having a little milk and cookie picnic together. And that can sort of be a front shot. But there's also a lot of different angles you can do with this. You can get really close if you want to see just their faces. You can go really wide out if you want to make a big set. And I should note, if just having sort of the two of them on a table with a colored background isn't as much as you want for your movie, you can also take a big piece of cardboard and tape it up to a wall, or use that same little tripod method we were talking about, but just make this top end a lot longer. And then you could prop that up and back and paint this, or paint or draw on or color this whole, and like make a whole backdrop. I don't know if that quite makes sense since I don't have like an actual backdrop here, but it's basically just cardboard will make a really good backdrop if you're using something small like this. You can also like lay down, I've seen people like tape a piece of fabric up to their wall and then sort of lay it down to just make like one big single colored environment that they work on. There's a lot of different things you can do. And it really all depends on what you have with you and what you're willing to work on, like the limits of your imagination, sort of. So the main thing is there's this kind of front angle, and you can use that with a little set like this, or you can use it with something smaller, like a kind of Lego set. And the big thing about Legos that I really like is you don't have to worry about an onion skin as much, since a Lego is just gonna like stick in on those other Legos. It's harder to like hit it and knock something over. That was a bad example. It's harder to like hit it and knock something over because it's like kind of stuck in that Lego-y ground. So let's say maybe I had this little turtle and this little dinosaur, and I wanted them to sort of have like a little Lego race on here. Then I could like move each one of them really slowly and be taking all the little pictures, and then they'll both get to the end. But the other fun thing about Legos is like the scale of them for stop motion. So I have all of these really small pieces that are all like clearly much smaller than just my hand, but if I'm zooming in on them right, then they're gonna look really big. Like this tree right now is like a third of my whole camera view. So then you can really play with other fun scale things. Like maybe this little turtle and this little dinosaur both get to the end of this race. And at the end, there's like what now looks like a giant bear because it's so much bigger than like the trees and everything else because you're using really small stuff. So one of the really fun things to play with stop motion is like the scale and different ways that you can make things bigger and smaller and kind of like setting up your camera further versus closer to zoom in and out. So like maybe the way that you want to start your movie is you start with your camera like sitting propped up right here, and you have a little set that you like take a picture, move it a little closer, take a picture, move it a little closer, take a picture, move it a little closer, take a picture. And then that's going to sort of look like your camera is zooming in on it. I don't know if that 100% makes sense. I'm not seeing any questions about it. I'm hoping that it comes across, but like, please feel free to ask as many questions as you want, since stop motion is something that it kind of takes a really long time to take all the pictures and fully demonstrate. So I'm talking a little bit more in this one. So any questions, please feel free to ask. So those are the main sort of examples of how you can get something with like a straight on forward kind of angle. But another thing I really like about stop motion, and a way that you can really play around with different ideas, is if you have sort of this kind of an angle instead, where it's shooting down. Oh, well, I missed this a lot. Can't read your top rest. Thank you. Bye for sharing with others. Thank you. For coming in. I think we mentioned in a comment earlier, this will be available later today with captions. So hope you can tune in and hope to see you soon. But back to different angles. So if you have sort of a flat kind, you can have this sort of front shot, regular kind of pointing forward, but you can also do an above shot. And the way that I like to do that is with, instead of using a tripod, you can, if you have a table like this, you can just place whatever your device you're working with flat on that table with the camera just out far enough that it's sort of pointing at the ground. And then you can make your same kind of set there. So you can like just draw on a big piece of paper and put that on the ground, or you can lay out a big piece of fabric, or you can just use whatever texture your ground has already, and then that's gonna sort of make you like a whole different area and a whole different perspective, kind of like a bird's eye view look. And from what I've seen from stop motion videos in the past, if you're doing this sort of above look, it might be a little bit more abstract, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. That's where, like, if you did a paper cut stop motion, where if you took a ton of pieces of paper and you cut out all sorts of different little characters and set pieces, then you could move all the paper around from above and take a bunch of little pictures with that, and then that would be sort of your angle. But you can also do that with 3D examples. So I brought these 2 little pine cones that I found outside, you know, taking walks, getting in all the nature, and you could, if I was going to do an above stop motion shot with them, I could be like standing from above taking pictures. So it would be like I'd have these 2 pine cones and I could maybe move them, take a little picture, 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 and that will spin these pine cones around kind of in a circle when I'm watching the film of it at the end. And then maybe I want to mix that up and I have these 2 pine cones and I take one out, take a picture, and then the pine cone disappears. So then after that pine cone disappears, maybe I have this pine cone, looks over, a little confused, take a picture, looks over, take a picture and you kind of see it has that like looking back and forth motion. And then I can put in like a bouncy ball. So then when you're watching this movie, it would sort of look like these pine cones spin around. I would take one out, one pine cone would look around, and then a bouncy ball would like magically appear in. And that's sort of the cool thing that I really like, that you can just have these like magical transformations that it's a bit harder to do with something like hand puppets, because then you have to like pop your hand down and bring it back up. But with this, you can take as much time as you want, go as slow as you like to with these puppets, and just move things at your own pace. So there's lots of different options you can do, and tons of different fun work with backgrounds and scenes and props. And really any object will work, and you can use some objects to represent other stuff. So like Legos can work as trees, or like frogs can work as people. I think one of my favorite ones is one time online I saw someone took a painting and they just kept painting layers over it and taking pictures after each layer they painted. And then you can use that to sort of make like a living painting kind of movie. One of the really big tips I recommend is, if you can't think of what to do for sort of a plot of a stop motion movie, you can just like Google stop motion animation, or like look those up on YouTube, and there will be hundreds of thousands of videos of different people doing all different sorts of things. And as long as you know these like basic tips of like just having an app and setting up like a phone or a tablet somewhere, you can really do any kind of thing. Ooh, question. Have you any other ideas for creating a tripod if you want to shoot from overhead? The main thing I like to do from overhead is, if you have, like if I was shooting overhead on this table, you could lay out, like you could put up a little stool or a little chair or a little box, and then you could lay this flat on the box, because the only thing that matters is like you're keeping this down flat, and then that you can see the camera out. The more sort of industry standard that you'll see a lot of people do if they're shooting overhead, if you have like a glass coffee table, or if you took a picture frame and you left it open so that it was just the frame and the glass, then you could like take this, put the camera on that glass part of the frame, and then that would give you a really good thing. So if you have any sort of a glass or clear plastic and you have a way to just prop that up flat, then that'll work out really well. I just don't happen to have a picture frame or clear glass table. So what I really like to do is just, I don't know if you can see the bottom of this table from this camera angle, you just lay something down flat, the camera will go over and shoot down below, and then you just film everything off of the floor. So there's tons of different options, lots of different things you can do. This is just sort of a basic rundown of, here's a couple ideas and here's a couple of basic methods. Before I go, since I don't want to take too long talking about this, does anybody have any other last minute questions? Anything else besides the tripod one? I can just sort of hang out for a second. We can admire these wonderful pine cones. Any other last things? I can do just one more rundown before we go. Oh, cool, thanks so much. Thank you for tuning in. If anybody is watching this after it airs, a pre-recorded thing, please still feel free to leave a comment. I know I love going through afterwards and reading the comments and seeing things that people posted, and also any questions. So if you're in the middle of filming your movie later tonight or tomorrow, please leave a question. I'll try my best to get back. And please, 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 if you have any sort of videos or any sort of photos of anything, share them with us. We would love to see what puppets you're working on. And I think that settles everything up. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you here next Wednesday with another workshop. Bye.